Hi, welcome to tdcat.com. Today I wanted to just walk you through my workflow in Lightroom. And the reason I wanted to do that is because it's the workflow of an amateur photographer. I'm not a professional, I make no money from photography, I just like doing it, I just like taking pictures. And as a result, I've spent a bit of time in Lightroom, I've spent a bit of time working with stuff, and I think everybody has their own sort of technique in Lightroom. And I would kind of like it actually if more people posted this sort of thing, because I would watch other people will go through their workflow and sort of just think, oh yeah, I don't do stuff like that, or I wouldn't have thought to do that, or something like that. So this is absolutely not necessarily the right way to do things. It's not necessarily the best way to do things. It's just the way I do things, okay? So if you do pick something up from it, great. So what I'm going to be working with is a picture of my son from last week. I was just taking some snaps in the morning, just after he got up, which is why he's still in his pajamas here. And so I'm just going to show. This is actually the original. This is the raw image out of the camera, and you can see it's taken with a 100mm 2.8 macro lens, which is it takes really nice pictures. Actually, it's a lovely lens, and I just want to basically go through the process of what I would do and what I would look at when I'm developing this picture, I suppose. Right, so everything's set to blank, as you can see here. The first thing I would look at is the histogram, and I would see that if anything, there's maybe a little bit of lack of whites, because if you look, there's a lot of white in this picture, or what would probably be white, but there's no white here up in the histogram. So it's possibly the histogram is possibly a little bit shifted over to the left, which suggests to me the exposure probably needs to go up, which is quite likely. Actually, I do tend to shoot a little bit below on the exposure side, just because I prefer to get a sort of faster shutter speed, and then I'll just push it up a little bit in Lightroom. And I guess that depends on what camera you're using and the noise levels and stuff. So if I bring that up a bit, obviously that's too much. Probably something like that. And then maybe what I do for the rest of it there, to just get this histogram so we've got a full dynamic range right across the whole picture, is I'll just push the whites up like that, and you can, if you press J on the keyboard, you'll notice these two turn on, so that highlights the where you've gone into, when you've basically blown out the picture, gone into highlights sort of that can't be recovered. So we turn that on, and then I've pushed the whites up. See, the whole image starts to do that. So what we'll do is we'll just take it maybe up to about there, something like that, and then add a touch more contrast to it, and then I'll check the white balance. So just move the white balance a bit, just to sort of get a feel of how it looks when it's a bit cooler. Don't like it, so I mean, I might just do a quick sample on this top, because it's a pretty good area to sample on, I think. Nah. But my monitors are quite well calibrated, so I do tend to go by that quite a lot. So maybe bring that down just a touch. Okay, now as far as cropping goes, I look at this and I sort of think the head is maybe a little bit far up in the picture. So what I would do, I just actually unlock that and just change the aspect ratio of the image slightly to bring his top so that his arm comes down here and cuts exactly at the corner, because I think that looks nice. And I don't think there's any straightening up required on this. If this was wonky, so if this was like that, I would straighten it so this line in the background here was straight, but let's Control Z that, because I don't think that's necessary on this image. But I will change and cut the bottom off so that that line comes straight down there, and say that's, yeah, so I think that just basically, in the whole picture, brings his head sort of more further down, bits a little bit better. As far as shadows go, I tend to maybe have a look, see if that makes it. It's pretty good actually, as it is. Don't think there's any work at all needed on there. So moving down, clarity, I actually don't tend to touch that at all. Vibrance, I sometimes drop the saturation like that and push up the vibrance instead. But on this image, I'm not sure it's necessary. What I might do, however, is just drop the saturation a touch. And And now we're going to go into spot removal, because this is a sort of bit of a bone of contention, actually. Some people think, oh, well, you know, it's a picture of a child and we've got sort of food and bits of stuff from breakfast and whatever. So it's meant to be there. But if I'm doing a picture that I want to print and I want to just, you know, have as a kind of like really nice picture rather than just an iPhone snap or something like that, then I will probably get rid of these bits. So I'm going to zoom into his top here and get rid of this stain. Don't know what that was. I think it's probably Satsuma or something. And so I'll just try and do it all in one. I might not be able to though, so just let's see how that looks. That's pretty good actually. That's not bad. There's a bit of a line there. If we can get rid of that. Yeah, that's better. Cool. That's good. And same there. Get rid of that bit. That's good. And then in his face, you always notice with children, they always have like little bits of dribble or something like that. And there's no need to get rid of all of it. The only bit you need to get rid of is the bit that tells your mind that something is wet, and that's the highlight here. So you only, you know, while it's actually all this area here that's got sort of dribble on it, it's only this bit that sort of says to your mind, right, okay, this is a wet area, and you therefore associate. So if you can get rid of that bit, you know, immediately his mouth looks better. But I'm also going to get rid of these Satsuma stains. So, you know, I don't want to completely... It does make some strange decisions sometimes, the spot removal on where to go. So, just what about this area here? Can we match that up to the other side? This face is usually fairly... And we've got one little hair there that sort of doubles up, which doesn't look great. So we can get rid of that. And there. So this, it seems like a lot of effort, I suppose, but you know, this is probably the sort of stuff that most people go through on each of their images, just to tidy stuff up. And again, let's get rid of that bit. Let's see how that looks. Right, much better. Great. So now let's move down, and I'm totally happy with the color of that image. I don't want to do any major changes to the tone or anything like that. So I'll just completely miss off this section, and I'm missing off this section. Of course, you know, if you need to get into that in more detail and stuff, then you're talking about a different kind of developing then. It's, you know, all I'm doing here is just cleaning it up, making it nice, and making it sort of almost presentable. All right, so sharpening. It's a pretty sharp image. But the one thing I will look at for sharpening is the eyes, of course. It's the most important area. So if I zoom out, firstly the masking, and if you hold down Alt while you move this slider here, you see the sharpening mask. So basically the bits in black there, as we increase this slider, the bits in black are the bits that will not be touched by the sharpening. Because of course, you know, you don't need to sharpen this area here. It just adds to noise. The only bits you want to sharpen are the detail, like the eyes, and maybe the mouth and parts of the clothing. So if we just increase that maybe to about 25, something like that, and then watching on the eye here, push the sharpening up, and obviously you don't want to go this far. I'd probably take it. I don't tend to go much above 40 on sharpening. If it's an image that's close up like this, I'll leave the radius at 1. If it's an image that's far away, so if he was sort of, you know, his head was like this big in the image, then I'd probably reduce this to 0.7 or 0.5. So that basically the smaller the kind of subject is in the picture, and the finer the detail, essentially, I'll reduce this radius down. But for an image where he's this close, it's absolutely fine at 1. Noise reduction, well, with a camera like this is taken with the 5D3. There's no real need for any noise reduction, so that all remains disabled. You'll see there is some noise on this because it was taken at ISO 800, but it's pretty minimal. And moving down further, profile correction, probably yes. Chromatic aberration is not really a problem on this lens, actually, so I'll leave that as it is. And Vignetting, well, for this, I usually do use it, but if you look on this, it actually sort of darkens one side of his face. I'll do, here, and it just looks odd. So I'm not going to use it at all on that. So instead, I'm going to use the radial tool. So moving back up to the top here, we've got the radial filter, and I'm going to draw over his, set to saturation, reset that, draw over his face, and rotate that round, expand it out. So maybe just do it like that, and then drop the exposure. And what that does is drop the exposure around. So it sort of essentially spotlights the subject. So I'll do that to an extreme there. You'll see what I mean. But if we just do it quite subtly, it just drops attention away from this background a bit more. And if we turn it on and off, maybe do with just maybe having it a touch higher, like that. And there. And now that what that sometimes does is change the whole look of the image, and you start having to make adjustments to the exposure settings again, which is fine. You can go back to that, do a bit of readjustment on those, but actually no, it seems to be okay. I think for that image, just move further down. Dehaze, haven't even used that yet. Grain, no reason to add grain in this case. And as far as camera calibration, I'm perfectly happy with this image as it is, so I'm not going to make any adjustments to that. That would be, I think, my standard workflow to adjust an image. What I may do as an additional point, but it's probably not required here, is sometimes mask off the eyes and sharpen them a bit more. So what you'll see, because he was turned slightly to an angle here, you've got this eye that's sharper than this eye. So I may just go onto the adjustment brush here, press O, and just put a mask on here, like that. Press O again, and now just increase the sharpness on that eye, just to try and match it up a little bit more with the other one. And you can do the same, you might need to do that on both eyes, or you can do the same to bring out the eyes a bit more. So if they're a little bit dark, you can push the shadows up on the eyes. So that's sometimes something that's worth doing. But apart from that, I think that's pretty much all I would do. It's fairly highlight. Well, maybe it's like with a slightly low highlights. No, it's fine. Perfectly fine. Yeah, I think I'd just leave it like that. Quite happy with that. So if anyone wants to come back with a response video to this on how you work in Lightroom, or any suggestions to how you might do things differently to make this look better, then that'd be great. Be great to hear from you. Alternatively, thanks for watching, and if you like what we do, please subscribe. Catch you soon. Bye.